Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Coffee and Contracts. I'm super stoked about today's episode. It's going to be a little different. I've interviewed a lot of people that are in the real estate game and how to get projects to the finish line. And I'm sure we'll talk about that. But today's guest is one I'm super stoked to get to know and hang out with. Anthony Heygood up in Indianapolis, a newer agent in our company, but one struck up an immediate friendship with, sitting on the same row at our national meeting and got to know him down there. So wanted to get him on here and have a conversation. So, Anthony, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, Rusty. Just much appreciation. Thank you for letting me, obviously, being here, have this conversation with you. I'm sure it'll be exciting. And again, thank you very much for bringing me on.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. We met at our national meeting. We kind of connected on LinkedIn before, but we met and we sat on a row with you, a former NFL player, which we'll get to here in a minute, owner of a gym out in California. Charles is between us. And then there was me down there who I have a body that's like, he works out, but he also doesn't say no to ice cream. And then there was this other guy on the other end, and he took a picture of us and was like, I'm the safest dude in this room. And so that's kind of what started this friendship. I don't know if you remember that or not, but that was one of my favorite memories of national meeting, was that guy being like, I was well protected over here.
Yeah, and I do remember that picture he showed me after the break, and he's like, man, you got guns, your arm, and they're Rusty, and all three of us really big guys sitting next to each other. But yeah, that was definitely a good moment, fun. I mean, thank goodness for him to take that picture, kind of make light of the situation.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Well, yeah, again, I appreciate the time today. Kind of tell us a little bit about your backstory, kind of where you're from, where you grew up, that kind of stuff, and again, a little about who you are.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you my little 60-second speech that I like to do, when I'm having meetings and introducing myself to clients. So from Chester, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Philadelphia. So East Coast personality at heart. I live in the Midwest now. I've been here for more than half my life. So in Indianapolis, between West Lafayette and Indianapolis, I've lived over 20 years, so I do have a lot of Midwest in me now. Sorry for my East Coast people who are going to watch this. But I'm married, man. I love my family. I'm married, 3 kids, been married for a decade now, actually New Year's Eve this year. So, that's kind of like, that's my why, man, getting up and doing the right things for my family, making sure I'm being a good example to my kids. So my kids actually run from college to kindergarten. So I kind of have a broad range, where one at Purdue University now, boiler up, I'm a Purdue University grad, and then 2 at home and kindergarten. So, we lots of fun, lots of figuring it out going on in life. Besides that, I started real estate well over a decade ago. I started in residential, finished my life in residential, went back and got my master's in real estate development back in 2018. I've worked in multifamily as a developer roughly for the last 8 years. Kind of got burned out on multifamily. You build some of these big projects and they take a long time to build. There's a lot of different moving parts, working with different administrations, going through different departments within those cities. So it was it was time for me to figure out something new, something I could be very passionate about. And what I'm doing was introduced to car and healthcare real estate. Had no knowledge of healthcare real estate, having done, residential and commercial. I'd never heard of healthcare real estate. Thank goodness for that headhunter. I actually do like to give a lot of love to Nancy Good, who discovered me. I like to say, shout out to Nancy Good. Yes, she was the recruiter who brought me in. And once I got to learn about car, hear Colin's message, talk to Ryan Gillespie, who actually, me and Ryan were at Purdue at the same time. We actually stayed in the same dorm at the same time in 2004. So talking about the serendipity, my regional director, me and him were in the same dorm back in the day. Never knew each other back then. So hearing the car message, hearing how Colin approaches the business, hearing the opportunity that is car, and being, a broker that can really change people's lives, small business owners. As we work for small business owners. And it stuck out to me as something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So it allows my competitive edge to be in the forefront as I'm representing my clients and going against these landlords. Sometimes we have big landlords, sometimes we have smaller ones, but we're doing what's best for our clients, and really learning this new business. It's been really fun since October. So I appreciate you bringing me on to tell that story. And I appreciate the rest of this conversation we're going to have.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate that. A good little intro as we'll deep dive here. So growing up in Pennsylvania, but got out to the Midwest. I'm assuming football was the agent to get you there, correct?
Absolutely. And came and went to Purdue University. So that's my connection to Indiana. I didn't ever think that I would stay here, but here I am.
Yeah, I got you. So what was it like growing up in Pennsylvania? Did you always know you wanted to go to the Midwest and Purdue? Was that just how it worked out with scholarships, or what did that journey look like?
I can tell you honestly, I had no idea that I would ever end up in Indiana. I couldn't even point to Indiana on a map when in 11th grade. And in 12th grade, you start visiting schools and you go on these recruiting visits. And Purdue, my recruiting visit it was snowing, it was sleet. I remember it like it was yesterday. Really good food, but kind of not the experience that you expect on a recruiting trip. What I'll say is that coming from Pennsylvania, I can say that my mom never cared about football. It was never about football for her. It was always about education. So growing up where I grew up, a lot of people, were good at sports, but don't make it out. They don't have success in life, kind of develop that poverty mindset. And I can tell you, being born to a 16-year-old mother, I was never allowed to develop that poverty mindset at any point in my life. She always, preached education, always sent me to the best schools, always sacrificed everything, everything to make sure that I had everything that I needed to move forward in life. And so, the decision to come to Purdue was kind of a mixture of, looking at the scholarships that I had on hand, which at the time, from my memory, that's several, but, West Virginia, Boston College, Notre Dame, Purdue, and Stanford were kind of my last five. So going up until, signing day, me and my mom were going back and forth, what coaches I like, where was I going to get the best chance to play. And it came down to the decision, what's best for your education and what's going to be best for you to carry on a career when football doesn't work out, because inevitably football just doesn't always work out for everybody. Yes, I was blessed to have some years in the NFL, and we call that getting a cup of coffee. So it's interesting. This is called real estate coffee life. I had my little cup of coffee in the NFL, but it was I wouldn't say taken away from me. I got injured, tore my Achilles, and that's kind of the end. An Achilles tear at that high level, really hard to come back from when you're not that all-star, that Pro Bowl player caliber player. So, I got to have the experience and be a part of a great organization, the Seattle Seahawks, who just won a Super Bowl, as we know. But, for me growing up, it was never, my mom's mission was never about football. It was about getting an education and making sure, having someone pay for your education, not building up debt in life. So that's kind of how the decision came for me to go to Purdue. I did graduate with 2 degrees from Purdue. So I'm very thankful for that. And, so coming from Pennsylvania, East Coast mentality, I will say, it's just different mentality. It's kind of that dog eat dog, hustle hard. Nothing will stop you. You kind of have to earn your respect in everything you do from Pennsylvania. So I take that with me in life, being in the Midwest where things are a little bit slower, a little less competitive overall. The people just have a kind of different mindset. But I bring my East Coast mindset into everything I do. So it allows me to be competitive in the Midwest, as I stand here today.
I love that, man. That mindset, obviously what drove you to be where you are, be successful. Sounds like it clearly came from your mom. So shout out to her, man, for pushing you to your final schools being Stanford, Notre Dame, Boston College, Purdue. Those are prestigious academic schools that are also happen to be pretty good at football. West Virginia, you probably would learn how to burn a few couches. It is what it is down there. But shout out to my Mountaineers out there. But yeah, man, that's really cool. You can see kind of that woven in your story, that success mindset that mom was not going to take no for an answer from an education standpoint. And I think that's the hardest thing you see. I can relate. Mine wasn't an Achilles, but I popped an ACL at a much lower level of football, but higher on in my life. And you see, like, football comes to an end for everybody at some point. And it's that preparation for what comes next. Because you think growing up and you see you have some talent, you're playing with other kids, you're like, man, I can do that. I can make something out of this. But even that, there's a shelf life to it. You talk about a cup of coffee in the NFL. I mean, the average NFL career, if I'm not mistaken, is around 5 years or less. Is that correct?
3 years. Actually, it's 3 years. Most guys don't make it. And actually getting vetted into the NFL, what they call vetting, so you get all the benefits, is 3 years and 3 games. So they know 3 years and 3 years and 3 games. So they know full well most guys never make it to 3 years and 3 games. So most guys that play in the NFL, they never get vetted. They get the experience, but they never get to have that long-term experience, make the millions of dollars. There's probably on a 53-man roster, there's maybe 15 people who are making $1 million a season, maybe. So you got to think about 53-man roster. That's most of the majority of those guys aren't making the big money. They're getting that minimum check. A lot of those guys left school early. They don't have the education. A lot of those guys get out and, become depressed. Me being one of those guys, I was depressed beyond belief when I was hurt and came back. you don't know what you want to do. You have an idea, but you don't know what the real world's actually like. So you go from 1 week you're making $30,000 every 2 weeks to the next week you're like, oh well, if I get a real job, how much money am I going to make? And you get a $900 paycheck for 2 weeks of work. You're like, whoa, the real world is, this ain't it. The real world not it.
Not to mention, like, you can go by the equipment room and get clothes, you could get food, like all that stuff's there for you. Like the real world's vastly different.
Vastly different. And you got your schedule and your meetings, and your life is, you don't realize how easy your life is when you're there. You don't realize the average man will never ever see a $30,000 paycheck, a man or woman, excuse me, never make that much money ever. So you get brought to reality real fast. And what I want to bring up, like, shout out to West Virginia as well. That was the school that I chose coming out of high school. So just so you know, I went to Purdue, but my mother chose. I went to Purdue.
How about that?
I chose West Virginia. My mother chose Purdue, and clearly we saw where I went.
Well, listen, we'll paraphrase here: a happy mom, a happy life, especially at that age, for sure. But so you're at Purdue, you're playing football, you've got the end in mind. And that's one of the biggest things. Shout out to Card, gave us Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People for Christmas. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I absolutely love that book. It's a great reminder, a great reread this year. But he talks about beginning with the end in mind. And so it sounds like getting to Purdue, you're walking out with 2 degrees. You came in with the end in mind. And like, hey, football's going to end someday. I got to set myself up for success. What were your majors and what drove you in that direction?
So my majors were health and fitness and women's studies. So are you still there?
Yeah, it froze just a little bit. You're good. You're back. So it's health and fitness and women's studies, correct?
And women's studies, yeah. So my idea, where my mind was at that time, was that we were going to school all year round, so I had enough time to get another degree. Because we're in school all year and you never go home for the summer. Was to be a strength and conditioning coach. That's what I was passionate about. I love working with athletes. So I'm an athlete, so I love working with athletes. So the women's studies thing was to get to understand women athletes. You have to train them, and you have to push them, but you got to push them a different way than you do your male athletes. So with that in mind, I just decided to go down that road as well as my road with health and fitness. But that was very short-lived. After I got out of the NFL, is that you see the long hours that strength and conditioning coaches put in. I mean, they're there at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. They're leaving at 8 o'clock at night. And that pay isn't where I thought that I should be at that point. I was ignorant, ego. You think, oh, I should do something. I'm going to get paid the same amount I was just getting paid. So that was where my mind was at that time and why I pursued those goals. And I can honestly say it's still a good thing. I had to spend a lot of time in the training room getting back from my Achilles injury. So I learned a lot, and I had a lot of, knowledge already kind of going into, the getting back onto the field and how I should treat my body, what I should eat, how I should train, how I should, relax and, rehab. So I did use it to a degree at that point, and, I never got to actually use and, be a strength and conditioning coach, but I coach football now, 7th and 8th grade, and a lot of times I know stretches, so I'll take to do a stretching workout, or my guys want, hey, can you make a workout plan for me, coach? Absolutely, sir. So I use it a little bit now, and I still work out 6 times a day. Wow, 6 times a week now.
I'm impressed.
I still work out 6 days a week now, and I make my own workouts. So I use it in that aspect, but I never got to use it in a professional setting.
Yeah, I can super relate to that. My college major was clinical exercise physiology. I was going to physical therapy school, or I was going to be a strength and conditioning coach. When I got hurt, I then transitioned and helped on the strength and conditioning team when I was in college, and helped with some basketball and football and women's volleyball. And it's like, yeah, I could do this. But then I got to thinking, like, I'm a college kid. I have no responsibilities. Of course, I could be there at 4:30. I can hang out in the weight room all day, get my lift in, do what I need to do, and then treat, do whatever. Like, how's this going to work when I'm 25, 30, 35, 40, and I got kids and a family and all that kind of stuff? And so I'm glad PT school worked out, because you're right, man. That strength coach grind is completely different, man. And to have that, you gotta be up. You gotta have the energy. You gotta bring that energy in the weight room every day, especially those early 6 a.m. lifts before practice or before school. Like, you can't come in not like geeked on coffee or Red Bull or whatever your drinking choice is.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And my strength and conditioning coach was college guy named Jim Lathrop. I'll never forget Coach Lathrop. He was that example of old school mountain man. But he came in, he brought the energy every single morning, and he was just so intense. but he cared. And that was one thing I always remember about Coach Lathrop is like, he's there all times a day, but anytime you want to go in his office, say, hey, Coach, I need to talk about this, or hey, I had a problem with this, or I'm hurting today a little bit. He's like, all right, well, I get that you're hurting, but you're going to push through. And so that was another reason, people like him and motivating in the way that he motivated us to stay, to stay healthy, to push ourselves beyond what we thought we were capable of. That was something that I always admired, which was, kind of why I wanted to go down that path of being a strength and conditioning coach. But, when you get out to the real world, you're like, yeah, man, that's a lot. Good for him for being that guy. It's a lot to deal with in, your own life.
It takes a very special person to do that for sure. So shout out to all those who believe in something bigger than themselves enough to go do something like that. I know that's huge, man. So we'll get to the real world here in a minute because it's coming. But you're in college. You got a chance to go play in the league. What did that transition look like for you going from college? Were you drafted? Or how did that process work?
So yeah, that's great. And so my true senior year, I had a draft rate of 3rd round. But once again, education was most important. So I stayed and did my extra lap. The team wasn't as good. I played better, but the team wasn't as good going into that last year. So, I didn't get I was honorable mention All Big Ten. And I didn't get an invite to the combine. My pro day was okay, was so, but it wasn't, what I thought it was going to be. So I sat in draft day talking to my agent. I was thinking I was going to go 5th round, 5th, 6th round. Ended up being an undrafted free agent. So right after the draft, I was picked up by the Panthers. So I spent training camp in the Panther OTAs, training camp, summer with the Panthers. They had really good linebackers at that time. So, me making the team wasn't realistic. I didn't know how the business of the NFL worked at that point either, though. So I was cut from the Panthers and I was home, still working out by myself, just keeping myself in shape for my opportunity. My agent's like, hey, we don't know what's going to happen. So I believe it was about 4 weeks, maybe I was at home, 3 or 4 weeks I was at home. And then I got the call from Seattle, flew out to Seattle. And that's when I was picked up by them. And I actually got to stay and made my way through a different coaching change. So in NFL, when coaches change, typically that roster is heavily, it changes almost immediately. So when I got there, I was under Jim Mora. And then I was there for the first year of Pete Carroll. And I believe in the NFL at that time, the Seahawks had the most roster moves in that offseason. I think it was like 200 people. So a lot of guys that when I got to Seattle didn't make it. So a lot of those players, it was just a change of face. And so you start to learn the business of the NFL at that point. But, I was able to work my way up and, I had Ken Norton Jr., who was actually one of my childhood heroes, played for
49ers.
Cowboys and 49ers. Big time. So I watched him growing up and he was actually my linebackers coach. So I was really motivated. I had good guys like Loftus Tupu, USC guys, really hard hitters, David Hawthorne. So I got to learn from some really good guys. And be there for, NFC West championship game. I was actually there for Beastquake. So if you remember that Marshawn Lynch run, I was there for that. Amazing, so, I got some exciting times being in the NFL, but you also learn that it's a business and, kind of saw the writing on the wall after I tore my Achilles. I trained very hard to get back and, ended up having to have multiple surgeries on it. So I've had 3 surgeries on my left Achilles at this point in my life. Gone through years of rehab, and you wouldn't know now by seeing me and watch me run and jump now. But I developed a very, I would say, even different than my East Coast mentality, a very strong mentality. I became very faithful, very spiritual when I tore my Achilles, going through all that rehab and those times and those surgeries. So developing a different mindset after the NFL was kind of what led me to kind of where I am today. So I know we're gonna get to the real world, but NFL days, it was fun. You make a lot of money. You don't really make many friends because you're all vying for the same jobs. But you get to understand that, I can say now I made it to the highest level of the profession that I sought after college and just be appreciative of those times and be appreciative of where I am now today. So that's kind of how I look at the NFL, it was a means to an end, just like college was a means to an end, just like, going through high school, all means to an end.
Yeah, for sure. And so you mentioned Beastquake. It's got to be up there. Marshawn Lynch is one of my favorite personalities in the whole world. Like I always jokingly say, like I saw something on Twitter the other day. It was like, who should be like the two people that make contacts with aliens first, and somebody put Jameis Winston and Marshawn Lynch, and I was like, that's 2 for 2. It's got to be one of those guys. Well, what's your favorite NFL memory? Like that Beastquake run's got to be one of them, but like, what's that one memory that stands out to you that you'll never forget?
Man, it honestly, it has to be Beastquake, because I can still hear the crowd. Like, if you've never been to a game in Seattle, if you've never been to the Seattle Stadium, just go and experience it one time. It's the loudest stadium in the NFL. Those fans are absolutely amazing fans. They literally love that team. Yeah. And they come out for every opportunity they can, and they take pride in the most offsides penalties for other teams. So like when that stadium gets going and gets loud, it's deafening. I compare it to, I played at Penn State in college, and in Penn State's 111,000 people, I believe. Yeah. And so you're comparing that 111,000 people to 65,000 people that at the time CenturyLink was holding, and it's equally as loud. So I mean, just the deafening roar of the fans, everybody going crazy. Like there's everybody in the stands just so happy. We're jumping around on the sideline. So I would have to say, I mean, can I really beat that? It's one of the greatest runs in NFL history. So like, I can't even tell you another moment that was better than that, because I got to experience that in live action.
So I've been to a Mariners game out in Seattle. I've never been to a Seahawks game. It's on my bucket list, but I have been by the stadium, and it's built in a hole in the ground. So like it's built literally to keep all the noise in, and then you get those rowdy fans in there. I can imagine that on a Sunday night, Monday night football game, like I'm sure it is rocking in that place.
Oh yeah, it's definitely it's engineered to be that loud, engineered to have those high decibel levels, I would say comparables probably only Kansas City. Sorry to my Eagles fans. I'm obviously an Eagles fan now, so sorry to my Eagles fans. But Seattle, they definitely do it right, and it's a great city, great sports town.
Yeah. Did you have? I know you traveled with them some. What was there a favorite other stadium that you visited, or another town that you like to go to?
Favorite. I played the 49ers were in town. I mean, they were in our division. Green Bay, Lambeau Field. Cool. Yeah. Lambeau Field. Yeah, I had to think about it. Yeah, Lambeau Field is definitely something you should go. I've actually gone to Lambeau Field as a fan as well, so fan and player. So Lambeau Field is definitely just the tradition. Not as loud, but it's just one of those places you see and you're kind of in awe. They built off the stadium, and then going back as a fan as well to go watch them play the Eagles. I actually went to the Monday night game with my sister last year. Just that the culture of Green Bay, it oozes in the stadium and in the fans, and they're just the nicest fan base. Yeah. So it's kind of weird. It's like, oh, we lost, but it's okay. Like, just come and hang out. It's like, okay, well. So yeah, like Lambeau Field is definitely one of my favorite places as well in the NFL.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, I don't want to get dark, but it's something that needs to be talked about. It's not something that's talked about a lot, especially with guys. Like, we're supposed to just like toughen up and and suck it up, be a man, as my dad told me growing up. But Marshawn Lynch has a great quote that I'm gonna rip from him. I love, again, Marshawn Lynch, one of my favorite humans. He said, "You got to take care of your mentals, and you got to take care of your chickens. That's the two things you got to take care of."
Yeah, that's great.
And that transition out of football into the real world. Talk about what that was like for you. I'm sure it wasn't easy.
No, this is, I can be once again open and honest, man. I accept the vulnerable side of me now. I'm 40 years old, but it was depressing. It was. I couldn't watch the game of football for 2 years, so I didn't watch a single game, college or NFL. It was hard for me because in my mind and in my eyes, I knew I still had the talent to play. I knew that I wasn't going to get another opportunity though. So that was really hard for me to just understand and see guys that were on the field that I knew that I was better than, that I played with, played against. I'm like, man, and this guy, 2, 3, 4, 5 more seasons. And I'm like, I know I could have played more. So, having that realization, and it's all in your life. So I always tell people kind of this story is like, I didn't know what August was because, you got to think about it from a little kid. I started playing football when I was 4 years old. And every August, you're in training camp. You're playing. That's when football starts. So that first August, it really hit me like what do people do in August? What is August? Like, what? How do you? Is it just like, do people hang out? Like, is it still fun? Like, is there vacation? Like, what do people do in August? And that was really, a tough time in my life. It was very, like you said, it was dark. It was depressing. I couldn't watch the game. I couldn't be around the game. I didn't want to go to games. I didn't want to talk about football. And also at that time, you're not having checks coming in. So, it's kind of like, oh, well, now I have to learn how to budget. I have to learn how to, pay my bills, and, you're not getting a check, and, I'm working a retail job at that point. It's like, okay, well, I'm not anybody's list to be a strength and conditioning coach. And should I get into coaching? And it's always should I do this? What would have been? Should I do this? What would have been? And so having that going back and forth in my mind, but at the same time, I had a son. So I had my son in college. So I had a mouth to feed. I had people to take care of. So you can't stay down too long, but it's always thinking in the back of my mind, what I could have been and what I could have had.
Sure.
And so, I went through that real tough for, I would say definitely 2 years, 2 Augusts for sure. And after that, you kind of snapped out of it and, just wanted to say, okay, what are you doing next? What are you doing? I'm not going to, you can't get down on yourself for forever. So, that's what kind of when I started on the road was, going and getting business coaching, talking to people, being very open and honest with, I met my wife in 2012, right around the time when I got out. So being very honest with her about, what I was going through. And then 2023 was really rough for both of us. But, coming out of that is when I started my business. I started getting a business coaching. I started to really understand what I wanted to do with my life. That's when I started getting into real estate as well. So finding purpose was really what helped me get out of that. It was like I started to find my purpose. I was like, okay, I'm really good at selling houses. I'm really good at hustling. I'm really good at, figuring things out. I'm really good at identifying. I'm really good at identifying when there's a need to be met, and then I can use my intellectual, prowess to find solutions to those problems. So I'm really good at solving solutions. So just finding that new why in my life was really tough for those years after. But, once I found it, then it was like, all right, I'm jumping 2 feet into this, and this is what I'm going to do with my life.
Yeah. So talk about that. You jumped into real estate. You started doing more residential on that side. You can kind of liken it to football, right? Like you got tape on yourself and people kind of get to know who you are by what you do. Real estate's not all that different, right? You're out doing deals. You're out in the community. You're showing what you can do. Word of mouth, people seeing what you can do. That's how it grows. Talk about how you got started in real estate on the residential side and maybe what you liked and didn't like about it.
Yeah, I mean, I started to when I first got into real estate, I go to school, you go to school, you get out of school, and then it's they just kind of throw you to the wolves. It's like, oh, you're a realtor now. So it's like, okay, well, how do you make businesses? Like, well, you just got to go talk to people. And I'm like, all right, well, I love talking to people, but how do you get them to believe that you're the person to represent them in their housing purchase? So I found my niche in in wholesaling and then finding properties, to flip. So my initial first year was kind of like, I'm a buyer's agent or my seller's agent. And I realized quickly that I was not a seller's agent, so I wasn't good at going into listing appointments and saying, hey, here's the things I'm going to do to sell your house and all the money I'm going to spend to market and do all these things. So I realized soon I wasn't good at the selling side, but I did realize I was good at the buying side and negotiations. So, any clients that I could find to, let them represent me in buying a house, I was really good at communication back and forth with agents. Hey, we'll give and take here. How much is your seller willing to give me? Things like that. But then I started to realize, there was other sides of the business in which I could be successful. So, talking to people who maybe own, 4 or 5 houses, looking to package those together, going to these bigger, not hedge funds at the time, but, real estate REITs, investment groups, and say, hey, I got 5 houses for sale, putting those contracts together and being able to sell to those bigger REITs. So I did find my lane and got really good in my lane of, identifying properties in areas that were, up and coming in the city of Indianapolis and our kind of tertiary communities. And I got really good at that. So I found, investor networks in Las Vegas and Utah and LA. And at the time, everybody wanted to come to Indianapolis because our real estate was very cheap. Interest rates were really low. And you could find these packages, of 10 to 20 houses for $500,000, $600,000 and get on that wholesale side. And you could really get a good check out of there, get them under contract. And maybe I should be discussing wholesaling on here, but the wholesaling world is, you get
it's a thing.
It is. Oh, it's a big thing. You get a contract and, houses, $500,000 and you sell it to an investor group for $600,000 and you're making that spread in between. So that was the kind of that first taste of real estate where I started to see big checks again. So I got really excited about that because it was my opportunity to go out there and start to see some big checks again. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is what I really wanted to do, so that was fun. And I actually did a bunch of flips. I was on a TV show on Bravo in 2018 called Flipping.
Let's go.
Yeah, people don't know that. I don't tell that often, but yeah, I filmed a reality show for Bravo. It was my managing broker at the time. She had this dream of being on a Bravo show, and she was all stylish, and she had the hair, she had the look. And she went to entered a contest and she won. So we filmed a reality TV show for like 4 months called Flipping Exes. It was her and her ex-boyfriend. So that was one of those kind of fun times that I had in residential right before I turned into commercial agent.
That's wild. So, I mean, you're a jack of many trades, man. You're a football star, you're a reality TV star, now you're a commercial real estate star, man. Come on. Just trying to keep up with Anthony over here, man.
I appreciate it. It all looks good, but I try to put my hands in a little bit of everything, man. I never wanted to be one dimensional. And one thing I will say, after the NFL, I started to realize like I started businesses and I wanted to be a real estate agent because I never wanted someone else to control my ability to take care of my family. And that's really what it was all about. It was like I was good and what, my football career was my ability to take care of my family. And after that, I had no control after that. So it was like, I don't want anybody to ever take that away from me. So it was learning education, but also being a realtor, you get the freedom to go out and make business as much as you can to be able to take care of your family. So I never wanted someone else to have a hindrance on my ability to take care of my son at the time. And now obviously my wife and my daughters as well. So
yeah,
that was kind of something that I learned and adapted to.
That's such a good word, man. Cause I'm very similar. I was a physical therapist for 12 years and I was tied to appointments all day long. Joe came in at 9, Cindy came in at 10, Roger came in at 11. And like, I had no control over my schedule. And then I got into like a regional leadership position and I got some of it back, but there were still times where you had to be on this Zoom call and this meeting and this, that, and the other. And that's the one thing, like I've said this on this show and in social circles many times, like I don't care if I got to go sling packages at FedEx in downtown Memphis overnight to make ends meet. Like this real estate gig is for me because it allows me to care for my family and those that I love and care about at a higher level than I ever have before. Gives me the freedom and flexibility to do a lot of fun things. I'm like you, I've got my hands in a lot of things. From this podcast, I have a sports content creation company. I still do a little PT on the side. Like I try and do a lot of things to stay busy. And this real estate lifestyle has been huge for me because it gives me that flexibility and freedom. I can work really, really hard in the morning. In the afternoon, I can hang out with my dog, record a couple podcasts with friends like you and different folks. And I can have control of my life. And to your point, like, that spoke to me really deep because I've had other people in control of my life for so long that now that I've gotten that control, like, buddy, you're gonna have to wrestle it away from me.
Absolutely, 100%, man. I agree. It's beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that sentiment. And it's so true. I mean, it's so true. Once you have that freedom of movement, and I was in corporate for the last 8 years as a developer, so I was corporate, that 9 to 5 grind, but I knew that was going to be necessary for me to take that next step in my life. But once again, I never wanted that. So I had other businesses just like you, a blockchain mining company. I ran a blockchain mining company. I still own a party bus company. I actually have the company up for sale right now, but it has not sold. So thinking about starting it back up here in the fall because we do a lot of tailgates and a lot of football season. We're really, really busy with the party bus. So but just having that ability to go out and take care of yourself and your family. So I admire that about you, going to do the PT on the side and still doing, other things while, this real estate is really booming. It's going to boom for both of us. I truly believe that. When I met you, I was like, this guy got to go. No, I'm so happy that I'm on your podcast now because I've been watching you. I told you, LinkedIn, you and David, your LinkedIn's were someone that I follow and Dez too, that I'm like, man, they're doing something really big and they're giving great information, and kind of embarrassed that you got me on after 2 heavy hitters. You got Mike Jorgensen on, you got Colin on, and I'm like, you're gonna have me on. Like, what do I know outside of those guys? But again,
that's what's beautiful about this is like, yeah, Colin and Mike know real estate so well, but like your success mindset is going to make you successful at whatever you do. And so like you bring so much to the table from your background with, understanding what it takes to succeed at the highest level in one profession is going to bleed over into every single profession that you go to, because you are one of those just true success stories that like you found a way. Like in sports is such a great model for real life, because like nobody's going to earn a college scholarship or an NFL draft pick or a contract for you other than you. And so if you go find that success in one profession, then that's just going to kind of like just pour over into every avenue that you have in life if you have that right mindset, which we both know you do. And so, yeah, you're the perfect one to come on this podcast after them, because you bring a whole different perspective and a whole different mindset to what this looks like, man. And I was super excited to get you on here and talk. And you talk about David and Dez. One of the things that's helped me a lot is just looking at people who are further down the line than me. And I was the same way. I sat on the sideline and I watched Des and David and some different people on their social medias on LinkedIn and Instagram for a long time. It was like, I can do that. Like that. Like I see the model, and that's what Mike likes to kind of tongue in cheek make fun of me about. He's like, we gave you the playbook and you executed it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm coachable. That's what I am. So watching Des and David, I'm like, if they can do it, like I understand their pattern now, I'm gonna go mimic it. So shout out to them for kind of setting the standard of what it looks like on social media to grow a brand, and talk a little bit about that. You transition into car now. What are you doing in the Indianapolis market to kind of grow your brand, and what successes are you finding?
Yeah, man, it's been exciting. I can tell you, I've had a lot of fun since October. You know, I was in October training class with Car, and once I got back, I hit the ground running, and I haven't stopped since. I mean, I'm holding 20, 25, 30 meetings a week. I'm meeting every vendor I can. So, you know, Indianapolis, as big as it is, it's still very small, especially in this niche of real estate. So the rebrand for me has been, I mean, like I said, it's just been really exciting. I've had to meet new GCs. So I thought I was going to have some overlap from the development world, and actually there isn't. There really isn't any. So the lenders that I talk to in development, they don't lend in healthcare space, you know, so it's a completely different lender network, different GCs. They have different, you know, technical skills, different architects. You know, so we're wealth management, you know, talking to Patterson guys, learning about, you know, the dental industry and, you know, how the equipment works and what equipment goes in offices, reaching out to, you know, veterinarians. So I've, you know, reached out to Purdue's veterinary school, is a very big veterinary school here in the state of Indiana. Indiana University, which is Purdue's rival, they have the dental school. So getting to know who the players are in this market, it has been really fun for me. And then I've also got to go and do a lot more volunteering, a lot more community work. That's something that I've always been very passionate about. So it kind of goes hand in hand where, you know, on a daily basis, maybe I'm not having every meeting that's going to be, you know, car related or something that, you know, falls in line for, you know, this business in particular, but it's allowing me to connect with people who I would have never connected with, and then understand what they're doing and how I can bring value to them. So, you know, it to me right now, it's having more broad value than it is just bringing value to the healthcare space. And honestly, it's worked out tremendously for me. You know, I've met some of the biggest players in this city, you know, that I would have never imagined. I'm sitting there having coffee with, and now we're friends, and now I got them on. I can call them and ask them anything that I want to, you know, just from one or two meetings with them. So the rebrand for me has been, you know, not so much of, hey, I'm a car agent, I help the people who help people in healthcare, real estate. It's been, you know, how can I grow and be of value to you in whatever you're doing, and be of value and grow the community and be an asset to the community of Indianapolis. And, you know, that's the path that I've been on. And I've had a lot of people help me on that path now. And I'm just so excited with who's going to come next, what's going to come next. And I've been getting, you know, calls for deals that I would have never imagined I can be a part of. So, you know, it's not, there's all types of deals now that are on my plate, as opposed to just doing consistent. Well, obviously I want to grow my healthcare real estate business. That's what we're here for. But at the same time, you know, it's like, hey, you know, can you help me think about this? And I want to model this, or can you introduce me to someone who does this? And it's like, yeah, I actually know a guy. Actually, I know a guy. Hey, I know a girl. I know. So it's being that kind of overall connector has been really fun with the new brand that I'm launching with myself.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, that's what's been so fun about this role for me as well. Like, I've met so many cool people that, like, yeah, we may not can do a real estate deal together, but I got new people to go have a beer with or have coffee with, or that I hang out with. I met my CPA. I'm getting a new CPA. I was having a transition as mine was phasing out, and I had coffee with a guy, and he's like, well, I'm actually transitioning to where I'm just going to be doing like taxes and business planning for real estate agents. And I was like, well, I need a new CPA. And so it just kind of worked out that way. Like, it's funny how, like, these meetings, you never know what they're going to turn into. And you just never know what kind of seeds you're planting, both personally and professionally. And that's not why we do it, right? Like, we're meeting with people, to your point, to be dot connectors, to be problem solvers, to be community minded, to understand who the players and people in our community. But you just never know what kind of seeds you're planting for future business. What person is going to refer you a deal? What person is going to bring you into a deal? Who's going to need your services? Who is somebody that you can help with your unique skill set? That's been, I think, my favorite thing about CAR so far, is just the people that I've gotten to meet and connect with across state lines. You know, you're in Indianapolis. I talked with Des at our national meeting from Florida. I talked to my guy Josh Peppers in Florida a lot. Charles, who sat between us in California. And there's always something we can learn. That's one of my biggest goals, is every month I try and reach out to a different CAR agent that's been in the company longer than me and see if they'll have a 30-minute call with me just so I can pick their brain and understand what's working in their market, what didn't work, what was some early successes they found, what are some things that I can avoid from a failure standpoint so I ain't got to go through that same thing, right? Like just trying to pick those brains. That's the nice thing about building my brand, as you were saying, under the big brand of Car, is that Car's done all the heavy lifting of establishing a footprint and a successful playbook. I just have to follow it and reach out to those who have followed it so that I can understand. Because, like, again, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'm the hardest working and the most coachable. And so you give me a plan, you tell me how to do it, I'm going to go do it, especially if you tell me that 10 vendor meetings and 25 cold calls a week is the recipe for success. I'm getting that by Wednesday. Like, by Wednesday, I'm going to check all those boxes, and the rest is just going to be icing on the cake because people who I trust and are in this brand have shown me the pathway. And I'm sure you're finding that as well with your team, with Ryan and everybody up there in the Midwest.
100%, man. And I got to give a special shout out to Sam Caladrazo, man. Sam, he after national meeting, so, you make all these relationships, you talk to people, and, the national meeting was just unbelievable for me. I was so motivated when I got back. You can't even describe how Car's national meeting, like I tried to describe to people, and it's like, you don't understand the love and the respect that everybody has for everybody. I've never been a part of a company like that. So like having that, but when I got back, probably like 2 or 3 weeks, Sam Caladrazo just called me, and I had his number on my phone and told him, like, hey, what's up, Sam? What's up? Like, oh, I'm just calling to see how you're doing. I'm like, what? Yeah, I'm just calling to see how you're doing, man. How's business? How's life? How's what? And I'm like, man, like that's the thing. He had no reason to call me. Him and his dad, Mike. I mean, obviously they were really good guys. Talked to him down there. But that was when I realized that this, like, Car and the brand and the people that are of this company are different. It's just what it is. They're just calling just to see, hey, I went through these things. Here's some things you could think of, or, here's some things I was thinking of. I know you have this background, so here's this. And I was like, man, and he's one of the people that, like, really hit me hard. And he's Chicago market. We're not competitors, and we're not much I can help him with, but that he cares, and it's showing that he cares. So, I appreciate you. And I actually, now that you said that, I actually want to do that. I wanted to start calling different agents in different markets, say, hey, what are you seeing? I had really good conversations at the national meeting, but I should definitely be more intentional about doing that with other agents in other markets. So I appreciate you actually sharing that.
Yeah, I've yet to have one say no. I'll say that. And that's because, to your point, like, it's a special company with special people that think bigger than themselves. Like, I was in the breakfast line behind our top agent last year, and I was like, hey, tell me about what's worked for you in your market. And we were just talking. He was like, hey, I got a meeting I got to go to, but you got my number. Call me if you ever have any questions. And I'm like, this dude doesn't know me from Adam. He's in Ohio, like, doesn't know me from Adam, but is willing for me to call and pick his brain when he's busy enough running his team and everything he's got going on. Like, I just kind of knew things were different. And I can tell you from my experience, I've talked to a few shout outs like Seth Bland in Kentucky. I've talked to Mike up in Boston. I've talked to Mason Greiser. I talk to him all the time in Atlanta. We're actually working a couple deals together. And it's just, those people are just willing to give, bigger than themselves, to something that is more impactful than just what they can do in their market. And that's what I think sets Car apart. So if you're looking, those of you listening, for a new place to call home from a professional standpoint, or if you're on the fence about whether or not you want to work with a Car agent, hopefully this conversation kind of steers you in the right direction, because you got successful minded individuals like Anthony and people on our team that are willing to invest in others. You'll be in great hands with your real estate. That's for sure.
1000%. I couldn't agree more.
And since we start to wrap this up, man, I appreciate your time. We could talk all day, man. I just think of you now, like, just more as a friend, man. This is fantastic conversation, but I like to end it with a little bit of a rapid fire. So I got some questions I'm going to throw at you and some quick answers on them. Okay.
Okay. I got you. I'll answer as quick as I can. I'm a pretty long-winded guy, but we'll see.
No, you're good. I say, man, brevity is not my strong suit, so I understand. Like, we're good.
Yeah.
Who is the toughest player you ever faced in football?
Toughest player, Jake Long, Michigan.
Yeah,
there was no getting around him. I'll never forget him ever in my life. He was just a monster. And the thing about it, he was a nice guy. He'd talk to you. He'd sit there and talk to you, but there was nothing you could do. He pushed one of our defensive ends 6 yards out of bounds and just kind of laughed and did it again 2 plays later. So
sure.
Yeah.
It's like the video of Quentin Nelson from Indianapolis where he pancakes people and it's like, "Are you okay, sir?" And it's like, what are you doing? Like, you mauled this guy. Like, "Are you okay, sir?"
Somebody put their hands on you, can't get them off you as a grown man. It's kind of demoralizing, but yeah, it's happened to me several times. Those offensive linemen are legit.
Yeah, for sure. What was your pregame song? Did you have one?
You know what? I listened to a ton of songs. And I'm trying to think. I didn't. I was more of a social person. I like to talk pregame. You know, I was one of the people I like to joke and laugh because once I go out onto the field, completely different animal, completely different person. But before, like I like to joke around. Hey man, we about to get it today. Hey, what's going on? Like, hey, what we doing after the game? Like just having fun. You know, not everybody's like that, but you know, the people who are like we always get together. You know, joke around. So shout out Cam Chancellor as well. You know, Bam Bam. Yeah, good friend.
Oh, he was a freak. You talk about a mauler. That guy was just like he was a headhunter, man.
Monster. Monster. Hope he makes Hall of Fame, man. I really do.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that's like when you walk on a field with a guy like Cam Chancellor, like you, like he's built different, like just different.
100%.
What about like did you have a pregame meal that you ate? Did it vary, or was there one thing that you had to eat before every game?
No, I was the basic guy, the spaghetti, the carbs, and the chicken, and you know, lots of fruit. I did eat a lot of bananas because I did have cramping issues my entire life, you know, always pulling hamstrings and stuff like that. So I was pretty basic with the pregame meal. Nothing that would really stand out, you know, just the typical carbs, the pastas and the chicken, you know, eating the power bar or not the power bar. What was it back then? They had those Gatorade bars where then they started like just introducing those Gatorade bars. So I like those a lot, but nothing that really stands out or weird that I remember.
Were you superstitious? Did you have like certain socks or certain things that you had to do before a game, like a ritual?
Oh yeah, wristbands. One had to be facing left arm, had to be facing up. Right arm had to be facing down. So you know, Nike sign up on left side, Nike sign down on the right side. What's the name? I always wore my socks inside out, which was just a little weird. I don't know why. Always did that. You know, before I touch the field every time. You know,
only crazy if it doesn't work.
That's true. You know, when you lose the game, you're like, all right, maybe I should turn one right side in and the other one outside out. So you always wonder, you know, but you always push the play well though. So it's like, oh, I played okay. You always try to find something positive until you watch film, and then you start watching film like, wow, I did a lot of bad things on there. But yeah, getting out and kneeling before I touch the field. So anytime I would get right to the edge of the white, put my foot down, and make sign of the cross, before I touch the field. So that was I don't know if that's a superstition or just praying for that protection that you walk off the field, because football is one of those games. You're not everybody walks off the field.
Yeah, for sure. Did you prefer morning, afternoon, or night games?
There's nothing like a night game, man. Yeah. There's nothing like playing under the lights. It's not. There's nothing like it. So yeah, I definitely prefer. I guess I have more fun at night games, but you also kind of want to get the game over with. You don't want to be sitting around all day. So that's the worst part of night games. Like you're just sitting there all day. Like, oh, we'll have a meeting, and then we'll have another meeting, and then we'll just have another meeting about that meeting to make sure that you still understand the stuff from the 3 other meetings you had. So you get ready for the night games, and they're more exciting. But the daytime when you get up and you just get that early routine, get out there, and still sometimes you got to do on the field. Those are what you want to see.
Yeah, I didn't mind an 11 a.m. kick because I knew that I could get. It was a short runway to get there, and then you play, and then you were done for the day, right? Like, but when those lights are bright at night and all eyes are on you, man, that's a hard feeling to beat, man, for sure.
And all those fans had 4 or 5 extra beers. That morning game, got to get up early to have that tailgate, but all day tailgate fans, they're a little bit crazy.
Yeah. They're a little bit different. They're built different. Last couple, are you a coffee guy or an energy drink guy?
Energy drink, 100%. I don't drink coffee. I drank coffee twice in my life. I threw up both times. And it was also before 2 football games. So
there you go.
Yeah, I do.
What's your energy drink of choice?
Monster, red, white, and blue. I used to just drink the white Monster, but now it's those red, white, and blue ones. I don't know. They've been hitting a little bit different lately. I've been trying to cut back a little bit more, but some days you just need it. I'm up into the gym by 6 o'clock every day, so some days you just need it.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm glad I got my home gym, because I can just get up, have a little snack, coffee, and I'm in the garage working out. I ain't got to go anywhere, and I can just kind of roll in there and sleepy eyed if I need to. So I feel that. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Oh, early bird, both.
Yeah.
To be completely honest with you, I've started companies, and so I've worked consistently with football. You're up early, and I've always had that mindset, being up early, being up before the day, challenging myself before everybody else gets up. And then sometimes you got to work late.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, hey, Anthony, again, man, I appreciate the time today. This was a ton of fun, a great conversation, get to know you, and Again, man, just that success mindset, man, is so infectious from you. I picked that up at national meeting, and I think that's going to serve you super well, you and your clients, as you find a ton of success in this new venture at Car, man. So shout out to you. Appreciate you being here today and talking with me, man, for sure.
Hey, man, thank you so much, Rusty, for allowing me on your platform. Also, just being a good friend. I'll say, like you said, as soon as we start talking to each other, I was like, hey, man, I love what you're doing on LinkedIn. Like, oh, let's sit next to each other. So I appreciate getting to know you. I know that someday we'll do a deal together. I know that.
Absolutely.
And much blessings and, prayers to continue success for you too, man. I know you're still growing into business just like me. So I appreciate you bringing me on and, just keep being you. That's what I like to tell people. Keep being yourself.
That, man.
You are genuinely, authentically a good person. I felt it from you from day one.
I appreciate that, man. It means a lot, man. Thank you so much. You can find Anthony. I'm going to link his LinkedIn here in the show description. If you want to get to know him, ask questions, especially if you're in the Indianapolis market, he's a great resource for you if you're looking to grow your business. You can find him below, and then at the other link, you can find an agent across the country, as we are in all 50 states. Find an agent. It's a link at the bottom of the show description. Takes you to our agent. You find your state. You can find anybody just like Anthony in your state. So again, man, thank you. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us here. Remember, drink your coffee, protect your profits, and we'll see you here next time on Coffee and Contracts.